Catus Maximus here. I haven't done a power tool review and teardown for a while. We do have a classic Rockwell 4185. This is 1000 RPM, 3 amp, double gear reduction, carpenter's drill. This is variable speed, so this was made, so I believe sometime in the 70s, maybe the 80s. Rockwell did make some very nice portable power tools. I don't think this was the best in this era, but it certainly wasn't bad. And then, of course, Rockwell decided to move away from woodworking stationary equipment and nice portable power tools to being a military contractor, and sold all those divisions off to Porter Cable, which ended up with being part of the Stanley Black & Decker group. Once again, variable speed. It actually still works. I do like their interesting take where it's a 2-finger trigger. It's actually a pretty comfortable grip here. And they have this little extension so your finger doesn't get caught or anything on the body of the tool. And then they have the reverse switch down here, which I thought was kind of an interesting take. Instead of a matchstick, they have it down here. There's a possibility that you could accidentally hit that, but it's really not so bad at all. Seems to run pretty good. This may not be, this is a used tool, this may not be the original chuck, but if it is, then this is a Jacobs consumer grade chuck, not an industrial chuck. What I mean by that is the industrial chucks are like this. They're billet steel. And this Milwaukee 0222-1, this is what I would consider to be even better than this Rockwell, that's for sure. As far as absolute build quality and toughness, you can even see just a difference in 3/8. Both of these are 3/8 chucks, and you can see the Milwaukee's has the size of a 1/2 inch. So the Milwaukee was, in my opinion, certainly a better tool. But once again, this Rockwell wasn't too bad. Not a bad drill. It is ball bearing. You can tell because the chuck actually doesn't move in and out. There's a little bit of side play, but that could be just due to this being an old tool and dropped. I have my 3/4 inch installer's bit here just to give it a couple of goes, just to see how she runs on something that would be exactly up this drill's alley for a 1000 RPM 3 amp drill. So the reason I complain so much about drill chucks is like this cheesy one here has such a small key that I just can't, I can't physically tighten the key, making sure I go around and around in all the holes to get it tight enough to actually prevent the bit from slipping. That's the biggest deal about those Jacobs industrial chucks, is that they're billet steel, so they maintain their alignment easier, so they actually deliver more of your torque to actually sending the teeth up and getting them tighter. And it's always, I learned that a long time ago. If you see drills that have like these 2-piece sheet metal chucks, I basically step away from them. Just all they're going to do is give you frustration. I'm going to give it one last shot. I just gave it another tightening down here, so. And so, compared to other drills I've demonstrated with the same bit, this thing isn't too special. Okay, just for giggles, I am going to use a Milwaukee 222. I haven't run this for a while, and in a few drill videos I mentioned this, but never really demonstrated how it compares. On paper, the only difference between this Milwaukee and the Rockwell, they're both 1000 RPM 3/8 drills. This just has a 3.5 amp instead of a 3 amp motor, but you'll notice some differences. One of them just has to do with how much better the chuck holds onto a bit, and the fact that these older American-made Milwaukees are really pretty competitive drills. Much more productivity simply by the fact that I can press really hard and really drive this bit through, because the darn chuck isn't slipping. And you can tell that the gears are quieter. They're a little bit better cut. They're all helical cut gears on the Milwaukee. You can also hear that it doesn't bog down as much. Alright, I'm going to knock this to bits. Then, after the video, I'll end up reassembling it, redonating it. This is just not something I intend on keeping, to tell you the truth. I did already remove the counter-threaded set screw slot head. Counter-threaded means that the screw that holds on chucks is threaded on the opposite direction. So, you turn it clockwise to actually loosen it. So, it's righty-loosey, just because it needs to be in the opposite direction that the chuck itself threads on with. We'll just put a little bit in there. Use that DCF 901. And that will impact that chuck right off of there. So we did have a spacer washer to set the chuck off from this distance here. Snap ring, holding on a sealed rubber ball bearing. That is definitely proper. But let's take a quick look on the electrical side. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even notice it was painted pretty well, but that actually is a cast aluminum reverse switch. That's a bit of an expense. Now we can see the first hint to where they also save some money. See how wide the commutator bars are on this motor? What that means is that it's a lower speed motor because there's less commutator bars making contact each rotation. So the motor is cheaper than the Milwaukee too. A slower motor means that you don't have as much of a gear reduction, so that even though it has a similar amount of watts, it would have essentially less horsepower because it's spinning slower. Even though it's pulling, 350 watts or whatever continuous peak, since it's so much less RPM, it delivers less power because it doesn't get to have as much of a reduction ratio. The motors are cheaper. You have less commutator bars. You have a lot less windings around the armature to manufacture. We can see that they didn't put any type of glue or anything like that on the motor to help protect it against debris getting in the vents. So there's actually a lot of small things about this drill showing how, it was good but not great. Mid-grade quality. Prosumer. Might as well get the rest of the bits out of here. It looks like 1/4 inch or 1/4 inch by 5/16 brushes. Ground wire. That should be pretty much all the fasteners. There's our little brushes. This has had a fair amount of hours on it. There's our little switch. Real interesting. It has this really odd fork in it. That is a very kind of custom toggle switch there, that's for sure. Should probably get these wires out. Remember, many power tools use spring clips. So you got to have some type of sharp pick that you can get in there to release the spring tension. You got to figure out which side the darn spring is on, which is always an adventure. Nothing happening over there. Can't figure this out. Shame on you, Rockwell. They made this trigger switch really hard to replace. No wonder I couldn't find a spring tension. Those wires are, the wires are permanently assembled into the trigger switch, so if they ever fatigue or anything right there, you're basically screwed. You can't remove and replace them. That's pretty lame. And upon closer inspection, we can see, if we can focus, that's a 4 amp switch, or variable speed trigger, but it's 6 amp switch. And they did solder the connections on here, but whenever they wrap solder or wire around connections, through-hole connections, it can be a hassle. You just have to heat it up with a soldering iron. This needs to be put in like a vise or something, because you have to heat it up with the soldering iron and then actually wrench out the wire while it's hot. But this is an interesting switch with that little V groove. Nice. It's rated for wherever all the ratings were actually on the top panel, but it's a 6 amp switch, surprisingly enough. I'll be keeping that. I had mentioned that I was considering, I was going to put this back together and donate it, but not now. It's just, this drill is just not worth subjugating somebody else to. So, well, loose stuff, I'm going to pop that snap ring out, and then we'll pull this gearbox off. Knock out these 3 screws, see what we got. Wow, that one is actually pretty tight. So I'll just pry out the whole motor since I don't have any brushes in there. Lots of times the rear bearings will get stuck, and you just have to find some kind of place where you can pry out the motor. There's our motor. It is really, there's absolutely nothing protecting those wires, but they did use a ball bearing back there. That's at least something. We can't get this gearbox apart. We do see a collar right there that acts as an alignment peg. So if you disassemble it and reassemble it, the gearbox stays precisely aligned. We can see something that's common in these types of tools, which is that they'll use a helical cut gear on the motor and a straight cut gear on the second stage, just because it's spinning slower, so they don't have to worry about as much noise. But obviously we heard it is noisier than the Milwaukee, and it helps save a little bit of money. There's our spindle. Nothing too spectacular. We can see in there that is actually a needle bearing in there. I do have a flashlight. Maybe if I get a there we go. We have a needle bearing there. I assume we'll have one there. So it was an all ball and needle bearing drill, so that was at least something. It just unfortunately missed the mark in several other areas. And we can see something else. There's a big chunk of aluminum in there, and you're like, what on earth is that? There may have been like a 1/2-inch version or some other version of this drill which had a side handle, and so that's the bulk of metal to allow them to drill and tap a hole for a side handle. But on this particular unit, they didn't actually implement that. Something else interesting which I haven't seen before is there's this O-ring. So what they have is you have this special, this is like a fiber washer that's often used inside electronics. You can see it has a star print. So the way this motor turns, it's turning this way. So it's trying to, any grease that gets in there, it's trying to draw in and then drive through the bearing and out of the gearbox. So that is known as a grease flinger. It has little fingers that stick in between the teeth. That way when grease gets drawn down, it hits this and then gets thrown back out. Rockwell added a little O-ring just behind it to provide a little bit of, I guess, extra support. We can see the plastic fan, but it was all ball needle bearing. So I would say that this was definitely in a prosumer. It just, you know, why spend the money of doing all ball and needle bearing and then have a poor quality, poor protected motor? I mean, these wires are just hanging out there in the breeze. Absolutely no epoxy or anything on there. I mean, the first little pebble or significant, you know, a piece of wood gets in those wires and ruins this drill immediately. So that's a disappointment, you know. Some poor design choices. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this teardown. All we have left is we just got the field in there. That doesn't even look like it was epoxy dipped. Kind of a disappointment. Anyway, really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Till next time, Catus Maximus out.